Cool. Well, we're back, episode 19, Pipe Dreams podcast. Super stoked on how things have been going. We've been making steady progress on these things and trying to up our game with every episode, and we've been getting a lot of good feedback. So we appreciate that from all you guys. Jimmy, what do you have for the people?
Yeah, so it's been pretty good. Listen, we've been really trying to update and get better with dropping more episodes and things of that nature. We've got of course, we have our merchandise that we have out there that supplies and helps with all the costs here. We've got a new drop from Defile Odds.
Yep.
That's coming here. We're at Mid-Ohio currently. We got a huge drop. You said like 507 pieces or something like that.
Too many. Yeah, I might go bankrupt after this one.
So everybody needs to check out defileodds.co, and you can get my merch, the
My
Pipe
merch.
Dreams merch, and there's going to be a couple special people, collaborations coming out there. And, of course, as always, we got to give it out to Law Tigers. They were on board in the beginning. They've stuck with us. I think we can announce that we're going to continue with Law Tigers through 2025.
Signed and sealed it.
So, you're going to hear us for another year. Law Tigers are, America's motorcycle attorneys. If you know somebody that was in an injury or injured in a motorcycle accident, always call Law Tigers first. The services are at no cost to the riders, and they fight to get riders taken care of and back on the road. With Law Tigers, you never ride alone. Call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS. And then, dude, we've got a sweet guest. We've got a really cool guest. This guy's
kind of a mystery man, too. I feel like the last couple have been a little bit... we're just getting him out of the depths of the darkness, trying to get him on the podcast.
very underrated rider, I think. Very underrated, maybe because social media is not a thing. Social media has fully left the chat for this guy. But I was fortunate enough to race him early on in my career, almost rivals growing up, and then very fortunate enough to be teammates with him in the last recent year. And, we had a lot of fun. I think we've changed perspective on each other. And, we're stoked to have your 2023 Superstock champ and King of the Baggers champ, Hayden Gillum.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good workup.
What have you been up to? You had a late night, you said, getting in here? You got in here like 6 a.m.?
Yeah. Just hectic day yesterday. Wanted to try and leave earlier and didn't leave till like 10 o'clock last night. So drove all night and slept for like 3 hours and here we are.
The kids, you got the kids with you? Is that what?
No. I think that's what made it harder was because I didn't want to leave.
Okay.
So they'll come up in a couple days with this being such a long week. I decided to leave them home for a couple days.
So just did the all-nighter on your own then?
Yeah.
Nice.
We're just watching movies.
It sounds like you. I mean, you were in it all day yesterday. Yeah. Supposed to leave a little earlier, but just buried with getting all the stuff together. And
yeah, this thing was like a clown bus.
That's how they are. You get to the camper life and you just start piling stuff in on them.
Yeah, we got the podcast stuff. We got all the T-shirts we're doing this weekend. I got 2 bikes for track days on Monday, and the dog. My little brother came with us last minute, so I got his stuff. So yeah, it's been, man, RV life is it's fun when you get where you're going and get to relax, but it's not easy all the time. I know the last couple of weeks been kind of crazy for you too. You've been a world traveler for the first time in a long time, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely not what I was expecting. Saturday night at Laguna. Had a good day Saturday, and then Sunday morning, kind of sitting there waiting in the fog. All of a sudden, had Midori Milwaukee give me a call and asked me if I wanted to come fill in, and I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I got to figure out my passport, but yeah, sure, because I let that thing expire. But yeah, it was, it was a cool experience. It's been 14 years since I left the country, so it was a lot different than I remember it being. But yeah, it was so much fun, and like being over there with those people, and like being on track with Garrett again, and like those guys are fast. It was I mean, they're obviously they're the best, but it was cool just being on track with them and seeing how they do things, and then I was mentally tired afterwards. There was so much going on and so much to learn. So
and that's your first time on a real Superbike, really, right?
Yeah.
So even that in itself, like last year, I remember that just being mentally taxing, like all the stuff you have to look at and think about.
Yeah. So like it was cool. I got to check off kind of 2 bucket list items in one go: a full blown Superbike and then World Superbike. So it was, definitely a dream weekend.
That's cool. What did you notice about going over to ride? You said those guys are fast. What kind of stood out to you?
It's like everybody here, right out of the gate, everybody's going, and so like getting tossed into that was tough. Trying to figure out the bike, figure out tires, suspension, electronics, like the way they have everything set up is so much different than what we have here, and then even the bike, it's still kind of the base of what I have, but it's a newer model, so it's got the split throttle bodies and all that, so that was different. It was just. And then, like I was really surprised I could actually like brake kind of with everybody, but then the way they get off into the corners, like they just hold the brake pressure so long and then just release it and go. And where here I feel like the way I ride, like I have like max brake pressure and then kind of taper off as I start tipping in, and so like learning, it was just a lot of adjustments and like looking at data and everything compared to the factory HRC bikes and everything. The way they ride is just completely different than how I do. So trying to wrap my head around that was a big deal.
Do you think that it has to do with mainly the tires, or do you think the tires force people to be able to do different things, like get away with certain things versus riding Pirellis from Dunlops?
I think the tires, the front tire definitely like allows them to be able to ride it like that. And that was where like I just, I was missing quite a bit of time just finding that edge. Here we've got so much time on the Dunlops that you can go right out of the gate and get right up to speed and know exactly what the tire's going to do, where over there it just took some time, and even by the end of the weekend I was still trying to figure stuff out, and that track was like, I thought that was going to be a pretty simple track looking at it on TV. Like it looks flat and everything, and it's not flat. And you're full tilt, full lean going, and man, if you're like offline a little bit or the bike's not turning quite right, you're losing a lot of time. And so it was a big learning experience. Like even by the end of the weekend, I was getting faster and getting a little more comfortable, but it's just those guys get up to speed so quick, and then not being able to, like, I wanted to make really big adjustments, and they were making a lot of adjustments. Like the team worked really good, which I was surprised about. I kind of, you hear stories of guys going over there and they're just like, oh, here's the bike, this is how it's going to be. And they did everything like that I asked for and made a lot of changes, went opposite directions of where they normally go. And so it was good. They were trying to get me comfortable, and I was happy about that, but just need more time.
I mean, it was probably a success, though. I mean, you were really close to Teddy Mercado, who's been there a long, long time, and I mean, you weren't that far off, really. I mean, when you put it in the grand scheme of things, you've never rode a full-blown Superbike, never rode, a World Superbike in World Superbike with those tires, and we know that arguably that bike isn't, it's not like you jumped on factory Yamaha that's been proven race winner, right? Yeah. Honda, the top guys in the world, Viehi, and the struggle on it. So, I mean, I feel like that's got to be a pretty big success for you.
Yeah, I was pumped, and after the weekend, I saw where Leandro had raced there 2 weeks prior in the German championship, I think, and I was like, "Oh, man, you got me." But no, it was good. Like the full length races. I think I had him by like a 10th on the overall fastest lap, but like the first race I made so many mistakes, and like that turn 1-2 section is so tight and you're coming in so fast. I think I blew that corner like 12 times over the whole weekend, just blasting through there. And so like I did it I think 3 times in the first race, and then ran off in another section at one point, and so like it was, I was way off in race 1, but the lap times were good compared to Leandro, and even the like next group up in front of him towards the end of the race, I was pretty close in times. And then, but like the Super Pole race, I was way off time wise. Like right out of the gate, those guys throw down the fast laps and then kind of are able to back off a little bit. And so like I would lose like 6-7 seconds in the first 2-3 laps, and then I'm kind of hung out to dry trying to make that up. But and then the second race actually I got up alongside Leandro at one point, and then sure enough going into turn one friggin' blew it again and gave him a couple seconds, and then kind of just I was just happy I didn't crash the bike. Made steps all weekend. I learned a bunch. And that was my first time running with the Morelli, and so which I didn't have them change anything. I was like, look at it, and if you think that there's stuff y'all can change just by looking at it, go for it. I was like, the bike feels good, and I can pretty much do whatever I want with it, and it's not too hard to ride. I was like, so I need to just get comfortable with it, and so like that was cool. I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a cool experience, and like Summer, my wife, got to go with me. That was her first time out of the country, so she was blown away by how much different their series is than what ours is, and like going somewhere where nobody understood what you're saying and everything. Like the town that we were in Most is rural, like it's out there in the boonies, and nobody speaks English. Like we went to the grocery Thursday night to just get some snacks and stuff, and we couldn't read the screen on the self-checkout, and the lady that was trying to help us, she didn't understand a lick of English, and so we're like and she's just doing it for us, and then they've got these weird gates whenever you leave the self-checkout, like you have to scan the receipt, and I've never seen that, and so we're like trying to go through, and we're like, what the we're stuck here. We're not getting out. And then somebody went by and did it. Okay. So it was cool, and being able to, like, we got to spend a little bit of the day Monday in Prague, and like I got to go there whenever I was 14, but I don't remember anything, didn't really get to walk around, and so it was cool. Like I enjoyed myself a bunch, and working with the team and like making some good relationships there was cool. And slowly the plan is with our bike to kind of get to Superbike, and so hopefully those are going to be the parts we're going to be going to. So it was funny, a couple weeks before that, me and Mark Young, my crew chief, were talking about trying to get some parts and stuff to try, and we're like, well, it'd be perfect if somehow we could get on like one of those bikes and try some stuff. And then a couple weeks later I get a phone call to go over there and try the bike, and I was like, well, this will work. So it was definitely like a perfect weekend for me, really. Like I didn't have any expectations. I knew I wasn't going over there to win. Like I thought points would be awesome, but I knew that was going to be a far cry for that to happen. So it was just cool. It was a big learning experience, and getting to go do something that I never really, once I got into my mid-20s, I never that dream kind of went out the window. Never thought that would happen again. So it was really cool to have the opportunity and get the call to go do it.
Yeah, now you got to keep your passport active a little more.
I got 10 years.
I heard that story about your mom had to drive up and get the kids or something, and you guys had to rush to Chicago to get it renewed.
It was like
it's a gnarly process.
Sunday like 8:30 in the morning, all of a sudden things were it was getting hairy. I had JD making phone calls, my mom making phone calls, my grandpa making phone calls, trying to figure out like how to get my passport. We had to figure out who the kids were flying home with. We had our dog out there, and I'm like, I don't know what. I
heard about the dog.
Yeah, like I went and asked like Cody Wyman and talked with Kyle and them to see if maybe their driver for the hooligan team could take her home, and I talked to Roy, the Vance Hines driver, about him taking her home, and I ended up just having my buddy Colby that works on the team drive my truck back across the country with her, and then that was a whole nother ordeal because I had some problems with the truck. It went into limp mode. He had to go to the dealer and get it fixed, and like it was just, we had to fly with Stone to Chicago. My mom drove up there and got him from us. Ellie, our daughter, flew home with Summer's mom and my grandpa, and then they had flight problems, and so like it was a whole ordeal.
Stressful.
Yeah.
And so for people, real quick, so let's talk through, like, how does that happen, right? So Sunday morning, you get a text from Midori, right? I'm sure, you got a text just straight from her, or somebody through them?
Somebody threw, like, I think it was like they were trying to figure out somebody to ride the bike, and I think one of the guys from FIM over there kind of mentioned my name, and so they reached out to somebody here who came and talked to me, and then I was like, yeah, and then Midori reached out.
So you get the call, through the championships. That's one thing of, like, having a relationship with Dorna and World Superbike and Moto America, that they can talk to each other pretty easily. You're on a Honda, so I'm sure they're looking at other Honda riders. You get the call, and it's like, all right, how quick did you have to make that decision? Like, was it, you got to go now, and then give us, like, those 24 hours?
It was, so, like, they needed to know within, like, 30 minutes if I could do it.
Holy crap.
And I was like, all right. And the first thing out of my mouth was like, well, my passport's expired. And they're like, well, there's ways to work around that. And I was like, okay, all right, well, yeah, I'm in. Obviously, I have some stuff I need to figure out, but
your team was cool with it.
Yeah, I called, talked to Mark. He was pumped, and Mark actually ended up going with me. So he was learning a bunch about the bikes and asked them questions and all that. So he was stoked. Like, now we've got a bunch of new stuff in the pit, because he's like, oh, this is awesome. We need that. We need this, and so he was stoked. And then I called some of the team sponsors asking if they were cool with it, and everybody was really, really pumped about it. So it was awesome having that support. And then so they had already, I think Taryn for sure had a concussion, and so they knew they needed one rider, and then I guess Adam had crashed also, and he got hurt, and so they were waiting to hear on him, and so they're like, well, we'll know first thing. I think it was first thing Monday morning, and so I hadn't booked flights yet. I was planning on leaving Laguna Sunday night and start driving, so we ended up staying at the track, and like 3 o'clock in the morning, I think I got a message on WhatsApp saying, yeah, it's go time. We need you. And I'm like, and I didn't sleep at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting there just waiting, watching my phone, and that comes in, and then I'm like, oh. So I start booking flights, calling people, trying to figure out what's happening. And I think we flew out at like noon on Monday. Wow. And into Chicago, and then I had to book a hotel, and then the friggin' AC didn't work there, so like we're sweating our butts off. There was a tornado, so like we couldn't get a rental car for me to run into Chicago and get my passport and all that stuff. It was just a free. It
was an adventure.
Oh my God! Like, by the time we got over there, I think I had, in the like 3 nights leading up to it, I think I had like a combined of 9 hours of sleep or something. I was tired. And then I get over there, and we, jet lagged and everything, go to bed at 10, wake up at 3 a.m.
Right.
Because it's already freaking sunny over here. And like, I don't think until Sunday I actually slept till I would have normally slept to. And so it was a whole ordeal. And
they don't care. They just want you to show up and ride.
Yeah. Yeah. They were cool with it. Like, and I was up and at the track before most everybody else, just because I was like so ready to go and just couldn't get my brain to stop.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then yeah, it was an ordeal, man.
So going back, obviously this kind of ties to where we want to go in earlier career wise, but Leandro, was that the last time you saw him was with the Rookies Cup in 2008 or 2000?
I've seen him, like, because with World Superbike and stuff going to Laguna, and
right, that's true. Yeah.
Like, I've seen him and I've talked to him a little bit, but yeah, the last time I was on track with him was back I guess, where would it, Laguna maybe in 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool, and I didn't know that he was gonna be on the other bike. I knew they had told me they were talking to somebody or had already lined up somebody else. And then they sent a team schedule, I think Thursday, and I saw Tati on it, and I was like, this will be cool. And so as soon as he walked in, it was just cool. It was like old times because he hasn't changed at all. Like he's same height and everything as what he was whenever we were in Rookies Cup.
Yeah, well,
exactly the
everyone
same.
always said he was older than he actually was. You know? He was so much bigger. I think we were the two youngest ones out of everybody, and he looked like he was like 21 already.
Oh yeah,
like full beard. Like
I can't believe how old he is.
Yeah,
I fully had this conversation I think with Kyle the other day or somebody, and I was like, dude, no way, he's got to be older than I am, and he's just not. He's so like he's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think he was the top of the age bracket. We were at the bottom, but either way, he was Hayden, myself. We were all Red Bull rookies, so it's kind of funny to see that pop up where it was like you two, it's like the dream team back.
Yeah, it was cool, and so
for those guys,
and he's got so much experience with all that, and so it was cool kind of getting to be around him and see kind of how he went about things, and I was happy. I was really happy that I was at least on par with him.
Yeah, I think that was great. I don't think anyone else looks at, anyone who watches World Superbike kind of knows the results that those guys get usually. So it's kind of, that was your only benchmark, was really your teammate, right?
Yeah, like it was, because I knew, like, I think the next rider up was like Odell, and I know he's got some speed every now and then, and so I knew it'd be a big task to get there, and so
could you tell what the difference really is between those bikes and the HRC bikes? Because I thought they were all supposed to be the same, but
I'm pretty sure they are the same as far as talking with the team and everything, because they're the path they go, they get all, like, they make all their own parts for their bikes, but it's all based off of the HRC stuff. So like they give them all the specifications and measurements and all that, and they make their own swing arms, triples, and all that, and then they're just kind of going down the same route that HRC is going, and so I don't know how different they have their bikes set up versus like what I did. I know it was quite a bit different from what I had because it was way off from where Taryn was, and so I don't know, but I think looking at their data, like those guys break, like Shavy and Eker break super late, and then like their brake graph is like it looks like a throttle trace, like it's straight up and then flat at peak, and then it just drops, and so like it's crazy to see how they do that, and I just couldn't get the bike to turn really, and so I like watching them. I'm like, man, how are they getting through these corners? Like the faster stuff I thought I would be a little bit better at, because I feel like here the faster corners I always am better with than the slow stuff, and like I was struggling a bunch. I just couldn't get the front end to bite, and felt like it was just way out in front of me, and it was just I don't know how those guys ride that bike the way they do, because they were, I mean, obviously a big step above where I was at, and I would like to think it's just time on it, and they've kind of developed it and put it in the direction that they're going. And
well, that's why I was curious, just because you always see, I mean, the that team is never super close to the HRC guys, but if the bikes are supposed to be theoretically similar, I was kind of curious if there's anything you noticed that was
I think
kind of separated them.
I mean, as far as I know, it's a HRC spec motor.
Wow.
And then, I mean, all the electronics and everything's the same. The suspension's the same. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's all,
crazy.
They might try some parts that team doesn't have yet.
Can you see how like Top Rack and those guys can do what they can do with the front tire, like getting it up in there and hold it, and kind of can you start to, like, when you watch it and you go, how do you do that? Can you now go like, I can see how you can do that with that front tire in the way? And do you think maybe just the inspiration and the development from GP is like coming down, and they're just, I mean, they always talk about how they're getting lower and longer, right? And that's obviously got to make it so hard.
Yeah, and that's what, and I talked to Garrett, and that's what he was saying, was that, everything's gotten low and long, and just for the braking ability. And I just, my bike here is like short and tall, like it's the complete opposite. So I got on the thing, and like I felt like I was on a really big bike. It was just everything was stretched out. I was like, man, this is weird. And it's definitely after doing it and seeing the brake graphs and seeing all that data and everything. I that's where you get the pictures of them on the front tire with lean angle. Is just like that front tire, you can do that. And I had a bunch of people ask me like what I like better, the Pirellis versus Dunlops, and really I didn't think there was that much difference with them. It's just you can do a couple things on the Pirellis that you can't on the Dunlops, and then vice versa. Like I definitely think I like the rear tire of Dunlop better. The front, I like certain things that Dunlop does, and then obviously like being able to really squeeze the brake with the Pirelli at lean angle is nice. But yeah, it's cool to now have that in the bank. Like now I can watch and be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
do you feel like coming back here, you have a little bit different confidence level riding around those guys? Because I felt like years ago when I went over there, just being on like the same track with them and just seeing kind of like they definitely do stuff different, but it's not like stuff you couldn't figure out how to do eventually.
Yeah.
To some level.
And that was the main thing. I wanted to go learn and see what those guys do, and because I think there's like 12 or 13 of those guys are a world champion of something. And so, like, I just wanted to learn everything I could from the team, and then from watching those guys and being around them and see how they go about doing stuff. So I definitely think, like, being that I wasn't that far off, I feel a lot better about my riding, because, it's hard whenever you're racing the same guys every single weekend, and you have, like, Cameron or Jake or somebody goes over there and does a one-off race and like does pretty decent, like like okay, well we're not that far off of them and they did pretty good. So it was cool to just go and see where you actually kind of stacked up with them. And I think I don't know, I was like, we tested last weekend or just a couple days ago, and I was trying some stuff that I was working on over there, and I think it helps a little bit, the stuff I did see and learn. And I don't know, it's hard because the bikes are so different, and the electronics are different, and the tires were way different. I definitely wish we would have been at a different track, because that one was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And like I was like, oh, this will be perfect. It's kind of like I even talked to Garrett beforehand. It kind of reminded me of Pittsburgh, and yeah. It's kind of like Pittsburgh, just a hell of a lot bigger and a lot faster. So it was really cool. I was pumped about it.
That's awesome. Was that your first time leaving the kids, both of you guys?
We've left. Obviously, like, I leave them quite a bit.
Yeah.
That was her first time. Leaving both of them.
Yeah. Because Stone is how old?
He's fixing to turn 3.
And your second baby's like
almost 1.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Feels like it was not that long ago. But it was last year, right?
It was at New Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Man,
we're almost there.
It's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so she doesn't like flying anyways, and one of the flights was 10 hours, so she was
buckle up, honey.
Not pumped. and then we get over there and like nobody's got AC, like there's no AC anywhere, and so she didn't even know about that, and I had forgotten, and as a 14-year-old I didn't think about it whenever we were over there, and so like that was something different, and that was actually one of the things was they're really long races, and that track is super long and spread out inside the paddock. Like it's a narrow paddock but really long, and we were the very last garage down into turn 1, and Tech was all the way at the other end of the front straight, and there like there's not very many scooters over there, and obviously I couldn't take one for myself, and so I had to walk like 3/4 of a mile to get back to the garage. And like the race was tough and it was pretty warm, but the walk from Tech back to the garage like was killing me. The sun's beating down. I'm having to stop in shaded spots and like get some drinks of water. I'm like, damn, this sucks. And I'd get back and then there's no AC to like cool off, so I'm just kind of sitting there cooking all day. And like that was actually probably one of the hardest parts, was just after the races not being able to like cool down at all.
and not being able to go anywhere. Do they not have any hospitality or anything? Or?
They do, but even that stuff doesn't have tons of AC pumping. Like those guys just run. They run warm over there.
They don't get that many hot races either, probably, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty warm one, and like the track got pretty greasy and everything. But it was, I think it was like the sun was up from like 4 a.m. to 10:30 or something like that. So like at night it was actually pretty cool, but the temperature wasn't that high during the days, but the sun just cooked everything for so long that everything was just warm. And so there was just no like getting away from it.
It's hard when you, especially sleeping, man. It gets so warm and the beds are like super small. I don't know where you stay, but they're like little singles. Like,
yeah.
Even you get
push two together.
They're like, it's so crazy, and like they don't believe in ice. They don't believe like you can't get anything. It's way different.
We're spoiled here for sure.
Oh
certain things at least.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Well, I want to go back. I think a lot of people don't know kind of your full history, and obviously we've been racing for a long time. So I feel like some of us have been here doing this for a while. People only know like, you, especially with the bagger thing. I think a lot of people now know you from that. But going a long ways back, you grew up racing dirt track, Kentucky, obviously.
Yeah.
Owensboro. Is that your whole family's in Owensboro your whole life, or are you guys outside Owensboro?
No, a whole life. Yeah,
whole time.
That's where I was born and raised, just outside Owensboro, the other side from like where Nicky and Roger and Tommy and Earl and all them were. And grew up flat tracking. Got my first motorcycle Christmas Day in 2000 or 2001, right after I turned 6. And my grandpa and Uncle Earl got us the bikes, and so like they rolled them in with. My older brother had 22, I had 69, my little brother had 95, kind of after the boys. And, went out in the snow and busted our ass for a long time that day.
So explain that, because a lot of people don't even realize you're related to the Hayden. So, and I don't even actually know, your mom's, their cousins or something like that, right?
Yeah, my mom.
Break that down?
My grandpa is Earl's brother. And so like my mom is their first cousin, Nicky and Roger and Tommy, their first cousin. So then like they're my second cousin, Kentucky stuff.
Not that kind of Kentucky stuff.
Yeah, not that kind. You gotta go a little bit east for that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, obviously people don't know Frankie as well anymore because he hasn't raced in a long time, but Frankie Lee and Hayden, like there's that correlation there with the Hayden family. And every time I tell people that, they're like, no way, he's related to Nicky. I'm like, yeah. Cousins.
Yeah, it's like a very, I don't know. It's weird. Like everybody, sees my name and thinks that I was named after him, which I was. It's my mom's maiden name. So, but yeah, like it's growing up, like being kind of in that. It was always like everybody. I felt like always thought that we got a bunch because we were related to them and everything. And my parents actually kind of resented it a little bit because they didn't want people to think that we were getting all this stuff because we were part of it. And then whenever my little brother passed, it actually, I don't know what all happened, but there was a whole big rift that kind of split us apart from them for a while. And not until I was like an adult did we start kind of coming back and started riding with them again and being around them. And because then we had like me and JD and Jake and Nick McFadden and Roger, and all of us were still racing and everything. So we were always trying to ride together and bicycle and all that, which at that time I didn't really care for any of the training stuff. So I was hardly ever out there with them, but every now and then I'd go with them and go ride and all that. I just, never really liked getting my butt whooped that badly. And, but yeah, it was, growing up, like it was always kind of weird because everybody was like, I was always tied, like, oh, you're Nicky's cousin, or you're Roger's cousin, you're Tommy's cousin. And whenever I was young, I thought it was kind of cool, and then as I got a little bit older, I didn't really like it too much because I felt like that was all I would be known for. And now, you know, with them having got away from the sport and with Nicky passing and Earl passing now, it's all gone away quite a bit. But yeah, like over there, it got brought up a little bit, and people were pretty pumped about it. And I tried to run 69, which they, you know, retired it, and I thought I might be able to get away with it, but no, they didn't want that. So and then I had a Nicky helmet I was gonna run, but I guess our U.S. helmets don't have the FIM homologation, so I had my helmets confiscated, so I couldn't even run. Like I didn't even have them all weekend, and had to go beg the Arai guy over there to give me one. So it was that was a whole deal. But I was kind of bummed because I was wanting to at least like run Nicky's helmet to, you know, honor him a little bit. And yeah, that would have been cool. I got a picture with it on the bike and all that, so it was cool. But yeah, growing up in that atmosphere was tough.
So did you not ride with him at all growing up, or did you guys just do your own thing? Like, how did that? Because I mean, I raced you a lot in amateur nationals, and obviously we were under the impression of what you just said. Yeah. So I mean, how did that? I mean, you could see it like in the middle stages where you weren't really riding when JD was there and stuff like that. But like growing up, like where were you riding at?
We had a track at our house that my dad had cut into the hillside and everything, and so we would ride there. We would ride at there. I mean, you know, at that point, Nicky had just got over to MotoGP, and Tommy and Roger were full bore Superbike racing, and you know, everybody was on the road a lot, and like during the winter they were out west, and so like they were hardly ever home, so we really didn't ride with them that much just because they weren't there. And you know, in the winter we would always like rent this little indoor short track horse arena near the house, and have a bunch of kids come over, and we'd all have a training week and all that, and every now and then like Nicky and Roger and Tommy and them would come out and ride with us, and you know, have a little fun like that. But really, yeah, whenever we were young, we didn't ride a whole lot with them. Only I don't know, I've got memories riding over there. Like I've got one memory, and I don't even know if it's a real memory or not, or just a figment of my imagination. But I remember pushing Nicky off. We were riding hundreds, and they had a volleyball court pretty close to the track, and I like remember vividly him. I'm assuming he was passing me, but I like stood him up and pushed him off into the volleyball court, and but you know, like I've got memories of riding with them. And then even later on 450s and stuff, but it's not a lot. And I mean, you know how it is whenever you look back as a kid, like you have a bunch of those vivid memories, but you don't have, like you can't pinpoint when everything was, or like you don't, and you like remember the important ones to you, and like that was a big one, and like running that indoor with them was pretty cool. And
I feel like sometimes we like, at least this is my thing. I feel like we do so much stuff with what we do, and we've been doing it for so long that it's like our memory almost like kind of rewrites itself over things.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like simple stuff. Like there's like cool stuff that like the Rookies Cup thing. I don't remember really any of that. Yeah. That whole year was sick though, but I don't remember much of it. And it was not that long ago in reality, but it was a blur.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like it's obviously we're blessed to have so many experiences, but they do kind of, that's kind of my thing. I think I feel like stuff just gets written over a little bit.
Yeah, like even like looking back to last year, I feel like last year and this year is already kind of smudging together a little bit, and it's so like I know we rode a bunch with them, but it wasn't all that, and I remember we tried to get sponsors away from them, like sponsors that they didn't have, just to so people didn't think that we were getting stuff because of them. And but
is that like a Kentucky thing, like a pride thing, or is just
I think so. Like, I mean, as a kid, for me, I didn't really care, but I think, you know, my dad's a proud person, my mom is a proud person, so I think that they tried to do that. And I don't think they wanted Earl and them to think that we were, you know, mooching off of them. And so I think it's a little bit of both, just trying to trying to do something like kind of carve your own path and not and then also not feel like a burden on somebody else.
Yeah. Do you feel like there was a lot of pressure, people knowing that you were related to them growing up? Like, did you feel that at that age already, that you were kind of like in kind of a projection of like where you should be because you're
once really like once I started road racing, that's when it really hit. And then like obviously like Rookies Cup, I felt like I had to do some special stuff, and then I think from there the pressure kind of started getting to me, and I already felt like I started getting a little burnt out on it, and that was when I stopped going around them a bunch and try to do it myself. And
so a lot of that stuff was more like subconscious, not so much actually them being like, you guys can't come over and ride with us kind of thing. Just kind of you guys doing your own thing.
They didn't care. They were always open for it, and especially Uncle Earl, like he was always, him and Peppa always wanted us to be around each other and all that. And so it was it was never on their part. I think it was just more, at least for me, it was just more like, I don't know, I felt like I didn't want to be around it, because then I felt like it brought that pressure back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it growing up with a community like that? I went down and visited Jake last year, and like it was just imagining growing up in that kind of like hub of just so many people to ride with, and just like everyone with a like, I don't know. I feel like if you grow up in a normal town, it's like football. So it's like that's riding motorcycles, like you're football down there, and it's like to have that kind of network of people.
It was cool. I mean, it obviously it helped. It made us pretty good pretty fast, and at that time, whenever I was coming up, especially flat tracking, there was every single weekend we could go hit a race. Like, I mean, you came down to Kentucky and Illinois and stuff a bunch, and like you could pretty much at that time too, all winter there was indoor races at almost every weekend. Like, we could ride anytime we wanted to, anywhere we wanted to, within 3 hours of our house. And so that made it easy. And then, because of that, we built that community a little bit. Like, because Jake's from Princeton, which is like an hour and a half from Owensboro. But we were, like, for him, there was like 6 or 7 indoor tracks within 30 minutes of his house. Like, we were going down to Paducah area, and that's where a bunch of them were. And, so, it definitely helped, and like as we got older, having people to train with and everything was nice. And whenever you're in a sport like this, people in a town like that where it's mostly football and basketball and baseball, like people, you don't have a whole lot in common. And then, as I got older, kind of towards the end of high school, I like got into football and all that, just because I felt like I was a little bit of an outsider in high school and was always on the road going places, and didn't have, like, I was always friendly with everybody and everybody was friendly with me, but I didn't have like a bunch of friends. And so, like, I know 17, 18 years old, I was like, even into like 22, I was just running around hanging out with everybody back home, partying and being kind of an idiot. So yeah,
living though. Yeah. What was your parents, you or your parents, kind of plan for you guys? Obviously, all three of you guys were racing dirt track. Was it always kind of like following Nicky and everyone's footsteps to get road racing, or the Rookies Cup thing kind of made it that way?
It was like, we grew up playing baseball, and we grew up playing baseball and flat tracking. And once, I think we were like 9, 10, right about the time we started road racing, our parents kind of sat us down. We're like, all right, we need to make a decision. Like, you guys need to figure out, do you want to continue playing baseball and like doing that kind of stuff, or do you want to pursue racing? And we chose racing, and my parents always left it up to us. Like, it was always our decision. And whenever I was 12, my little brother passed in flat tracking, and after that happened, they asked us, do you if you guys don't want to do this, we don't have to do this. We can be done. We can, and we didn't feel like he would want us to do that, so we kept going. And then, at I think in, I don't know, whenever I was like 16, 17, my older brother Frankie Lee started kind of getting away from it. He was starting to get a little burnt out on it and not enjoying it so much, and so he made the decision to kind of start stepping away from it. He would make, every now and then he would make little comeback races. Like I think he was here at the last race whenever we were raced here in 14. And so it was, they've always been supportive of whatever we wanted to do. My parents have always been a little bit harder on me because I'm in the middle, and I did make a lot of stupid decisions, but they've always, it's always been up to us on what we wanted to do. But once we decided to go racing, then we were kind of following a little bit in their footsteps, especially once we started road racing and all that. But it was always our decision. Even now, like, it's still, they don't care what we do as long as we're having fun and happy.
Did you think about not racing after your brother passed? Like, was it pretty serious, or were you still pretty?
I don't think so. I don't think it ever came across my mind that I'd stop racing. Like, I mean, because I was 12. Like, that you don't have fear or anything then. Even whenever something like that happens, then it's like, oh well, no, now I have to keep going. So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went through something with my mom, so I like it can assimilate, or I understand, but I just wondered, like, did it, how it changed you, or because it does, like, it does change you. For me, it was something. It probably was. I don't want to say it was good because it's not good, but it definitely changed me in a way to be a better person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and to not really, I guess, waste time.
Yeah, for me. And I think that was a little bit of why I kind of went down a stupid path of, like, being just a little bit, like, not super focused on racing, was because he was better than I was, for sure. Like, he got his arm caught in a truck lift whenever he was 9, and, like, had hardly any use of his left hand and everything. Like, he had an auto clutch on his 65 and everything at 9 years old, just because he couldn't hardly use it. And we'd go to the nationals, and he'd still freaking whoop up on me on the short track and everything. And like, I won the Youth Dirt Tracker award in 05 or 04, and he had beat me in one of the championships because I freaking, like, couldn't stand being beat by him. I tried to make a stupid pass on the outside of him, on the outside of a freaking blue groove in the dust, and I ate shit. And he was gonna be better than me, and so I think that was part of the reason that I went down that path, was because I felt like I had to be better for him, and it got to me a little bit, and, like, I stopped wanting to do it just because I felt like I wasn't really living up to his expectations. And like, now, since meeting Summer and having kids and everything's turned around a bunch, and I got my head right, and now I feel like I'm actually doing him justice. It just took a little bit longer than it should have.
Do you think now that you're a parent, even that perspective, like, obviously for your parents to be okay with you guys going back out there after that, like, do you think you could let your kids do that again after going through that situation?
I don't know. Now being in this situation, I don't know how my parents did it. I don't know how any of our parents did it in the first place. Like, financially speaking, or just caring about your kids, obviously. Just even anything, like seeing them fall and, like, scuff their elbow up. Like, it's hard. You hate seeing tears and everything, and I don't know. It'd be really difficult. Me and Summer have talked about it, and I don't know. It's hard to say until you're in that position, probably.
Part of it, I think, is, like, seeing them want it that bad as well, right? Kind of hard to tell somebody no when they're like, that's all they want to do. But yeah, I can't imagine, especially it wasn't like it was just to you guys, like having the whole family, and then obviously like your whole town and all your cousins, everybody's in that world. So like walk away from it probably is even harder, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, I always think about it like parents wise, like because I'm like, I'm an uncle, but like even just babies, I'm like, dude, bubble wrap this kid, like, like I hate it. I hate it. I don't know how I could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
the first one's a struggle. Like the first one, you're like every little thing, you're like you're trying not to let it touch anything, and like Stone rolled off our bed in the camper once or twice, and like he's taken some beatings, and we figured out with him, like we were super cautious with him, so we were always like watching him, but we figured out those things bounce really good. And so now with the little girl, it's like, oh, she'll be good.
Yeah, no, you get some practice.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool.
When did JD kind of like step in? Because there was a time period where you went through that, and then JD started hanging around a lot more. I don't know, when did you and JD become really good friends, or where he's really a part of, your family essentially?
Yeah. We met him and his dad and them at Amateur Nationals one year. I don't know when. That was so long ago. It probably was the first year we went, and I don't know. Like after the first year or two, like he would start, because he was in Washington at that point. He would start coming back. He would come to our house for like a week after Amateur Nationals and ride and stuff and hang out. And then, the next year it was 2 weeks, and then the year after that he would come for like a week or two before, and then stay for a week or two after. And then once the year Ethan passed was the year before the U.S. Rookies Cup, and JD was overseas in the MotoGP Rookies Cup, and I think at the end of that year or the next year, he moved in because it was a lot easier for him flying from Kentucky over there versus Washington across the country and then over, and it was a lot cheaper and everything, and then he had some people to ride with and all that, and I don't know, I was young, and so like it's all a blur now, but yeah, it was like he was there quite a bit, and then all of a sudden he was there full time. Yeah. And so I think he was about to turn 18, like wasn't even 18 yet, and like got his license changed, like everything, got his GED in Kentucky, like did all the stuff, and it's stuck now. Now he's got a property, tracks, dogs.
Almost got a little bit of an accent going on.
Yeah, sometimes. But
I didn't realize that Ethan passed that close to the Rookies Cup.
Yeah. Like looking back, it was 07.
I can't even imagine going into that year, like at that age, dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then added the pressure of just like got this once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you remember what it was like at 13 years old.
Yeah, we just want to play video games after we got off the track,
so
pretty much.
You didn't think about it too much. Like now looking back, you wonder like how you made those decisions and everything. But yeah, it was that's even. It seems like it was a long time before Rookies Cup, but now I think about it, and it was actually like less than a year before we even did. It was like 4 months before we did the tryouts.
Even then, I looking back on it then, I knew that he passed, but I didn't realize it was that close back then. So that's really crazy. I was always kind of curious growing up. Obviously, Jake kind of got brought into, the Hayden clan on that side of things, and always seemed to have even a little bit more support from them. Did that ever kind of bother you at all, or feel like, like it was always a bit weird because I knew you were related to them, but Jake was always kind of like the golden child for the Haydens in a way, like from my perspective, not Jake at all, obviously, but that was kind of what it looked like from the outside. You know what I mean? So I always wondered that dynamic.
Him and like his dad was really close with Earl, and like I don't know how early. Like we've got pictures at the house of I don't think we even knew Jake yet, but we've got pictures of us like on the line together and everything. And so I don't know how the dynamic all started, but we all got brought in at some point, and it was all part of Earl's racing team, and then that riff kind of happened, and they were like getting really tight, and I mean, I think as I got older, I like, there was a few times where I resented him a little bit, which we've never talked about any of this, but like,
how could you not though? I guess, right? Because I mean, that's
because he did get some opportunities that he earned and deserved for sure. But I thought maybe he got them because he was involved with them a little bit more. But saying it out loud now, it feels weird. But but those years he was doing all the right stuff, making all the right moves. Moved in with Roger for a few years, and I mean, was doing everything right, and so he deserved all those opportunities. And I think because at that time I was kind of squandering a lot of what I had, I was just making excuses for myself as to why I wasn't getting these shots and all that. And so definitely there were times where I thought because he was more involved with them, he got things that I didn't, but also he was doing all the right things to be in the position to get those opportunities.
Now, so going on, kind of past the Rookies Cup, and obviously we raced against each other, Super Sport those years, James too.
Yeah.
Big rivalries.
I was gonna look up stats and on the way up, and I was like, man, I've lost way too many championships to these guys.
We were talking about it last year, and it's kind of like a full story, but here, Mid-Ohio, Super Sport was the real turning point in my Super Sport career when I had an almost 10-second lead on Hayden Gillum and lost the race.
Oh, yeah.
And have never ever
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I had like 9.8 seconds. In the last corner, he passed me and rolled me around the outside.
No way.
Rolled me, dude. And ever since that day, I've never let like a gap like that, in a lead go.
Yeah.
That was like a real turning point in my career. And it's crazy, when we last year were teammates and, at Laguna having big battles and things of that nature. But it's crazy when you go back and think of how many races that we've raced each other.
Yeah.
Well, especially you guys with dirt track. Hundreds.
But it's crazy. Like I think in 11 and 12, you beat me both those years, which it was by quite a bit. And then was it 13? 13, you got me by a freaking point.
At New Jersey, right?
Yeah. And then in 22, freaking 0 points.
Yeah.
This sucks.
It's all right, dude. You got 2 last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but yeah, it is funny looking back on it, like how many races we've all been a part of together, and all the close battles, and like racing at Laguna in 12, I passed you on the outside going into 5 there, and you nip me at the line, and it's cool. There's a bunch of
I have that picture coming down the corkscrew of me sideways and you behind me, and I remember JP before that race telling me like, "Hey kid, we ain't got the pace today. You gotta lead this race." And I remember every time Hayden passed me, he clearly had more speed. I would just stuff him and run the Suzuki short gearing and just try to punch it out. And it's been a lot of battles.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you always had that bulldog kind of riding style, or not even riding style, but like approach, or like at the end of the race, if you had even a remote possibility of a shot, you were coming for it.
That's like I've had people ask me about it, and I don't know, I think because of like how with my brother passing and like just other stuff that's happened, like I don't know, that if I have a hard time like quitting or giving up, and especially if somebody's giving me a little bit of a sniff at the very end. Like I'm if I get a shot, I'm gonna take it, and I think that's a lot of it's like my dad's a lot like that. always been really hard on me and my brothers about like not, never saying I can't and all that. And so like looking back, like now that I'm a dad, I notice all this stuff. And so I'm like, well, I want to raise my kids like that. And, yeah, it's funny. Like people will ask me and I don't think about it that much. But yeah, it's for whatever reason at the end of the race, like even if at the beginning I feel like I can't go like with you guys, it seemed like at the end I would always try and find something and try and make something happen. But
sometimes it would work.
Yeah, sometimes, not always.
So you think that's a product of your upbringing?
I think so. Yeah. Like I specifically remember my dad always saying, "Can't, never, did, nothing," or something like that, and it's
a good butt
always
patch.
Yeah, it's always stuck with me. So, yeah. So the whole I can't do that has always been kind of not allowed.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, I think that we talk about it in a few of our episodes with different people, just like how, I don't think it's probably a perspective thing until we get to like the age we're at now, and even you having kids, like where you think about those things, like the things that actually shaped you.
Yeah.
And how having that or not having that has an effect. And so I think, yeah, that's why I was curious if that's where that came from, or it was just like a riding style kind of thing, or what.
No, I think it's just more just how my brain works.
Yeah. It seems like throughout your career, even back then, 11, 12, like you'd have these like really hot spurts, and then you'd kind of like not do so well, whether it was the bike or whatever the case was, and then it was I think really the ridiculous years were like you were like on. It was like all of a sudden there's like this huge, and everyone always saw like that you had that in you because you'd have those moments, and obviously the talent was there. But what was why was that? Was it you just kind of like you're saying, like kind of fucking off a little bit at times?
I think so. Yeah, I think just at that until Ridiculous, I didn't care enough, and like you can ask a lot of people that I've been around that have helped me coming up, like Danny Walker, who has no shortage of words for all of this. Like you can ask him, he'll write a book on it about how I just didn't care enough whenever I was a teenager and in my early 20s.
Why do you think that is? I mean, obviously you said, that whole thing with your brother, and that pressure, you would think that would have the opposite effect.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think just because it always seemed to come easy for me. Like I never really had to try that hard. And whenever I would have to dig deep and try, I think I would kind of just crumble a little bit. And the Ridiculous days, I think it was all just a kind of a whole package. Everything came together. Like I had just met Summer, and I was living out in California in Josh Hayes' condo, and was around him a lot. And so he was always talking with me and, telling me I need to clean my act up and get straight and everything. And then like working with Ken Hill and being around that whole team and that program, that was my first, that was the first time I was getting a little bit of money to do this. And, I didn't want to mess up. And, I had 2 years with them, and I was like, okay, I gotta get this together. I've got this new girlfriend. I need to impress her. I need to show her that I can do this. I'm fixing to race JD, and he's got the Graves bike, and I was like, I got to be on point. And I started like working out a lot, and doing all the right things. Stop drinking, and it just, I don't know, for whatever, everything just started coming together at that time. Just because I stopped being an idiot.
Do you think that, because really up until that point it had always been either like Road Race Factory or you guys doing it out of your Fun Mover or whatever it was, right? Like, and even the Road Race Factory thing was really kind of a family environment. Do you think that plays into it a little bit? Like almost not feeling as serious as it is because it's more of like just something you've been doing your whole life at that point?
I think so, yeah. But I mean, it was, the road race factory, and I was only on there for 1 year, and that's because Danny, knew I didn't care enough, and so he booted me, and we've talked about it. He booted me because he was hoping that would kind of get me kick-started and headed in the right direction, and did the opposite for me. I think I was like, well, he doesn't even care about me. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, yeah, it was. I don't know, and that's the hard part looking back now. I'm like, man, my dad and my mom and them spent so much money and so much time and effort driving everywhere, paying for everything that I ruined a bunch of. I ruined their bank accounts for a long time because I just didn't care enough, and it took way too long for me to figure that out.
Better late than never, man. Right? I mean, like,
now you got 2 kids, you got to have a bank account for.
Yeah.
So it's
now I'm like, oh, I got to start really getting this
going. You said, living with Josh and whatnot was influential. What about, between him and obviously being around the Hayden boys, like, was there any like big things that you took away from those guys in particular that stick out to you? I mean, obviously Roger and Tommy were really good and super dedicated, which by the time I really started paying attention, Tommy was kind of getting out of it, and Roger was starting to really come on good with Yosh and everything. And we'd be out on bicycle rides and on road bike rides, and I remember one time we were on some back roads over on the west side of town, and again, the memory is going to be different from what it actually is, but I felt like Nicky all of a sudden like popped out of the woods on his mountain bike and was like pulling us down the road on a mountain bike, and I'm at the back struggling. I'm like, God, what the hell is going on here, man? And then all of a sudden he was like, all right, I'll see y'all later, and he just hopped right back into the woods and went back. And I'm like I just remember like those guys' work ethic was always a big deal, and even JD, like he's probably the most dedicated person I know whenever it comes to their sport, and I think that was a little bit of the reason I kind of was the opposite on the work ethic and really like trying, was because living in a house with that, my parents pushed me to try and be like that more, and he was always like, you need to do this, do no
that,
carbs.
and I'm like, man, I'm doing it myself. I'm doing it the way I want to do it, and I don't, that's not fun. I want to have fun and all that, and then like, so seeing how they just like how their love for it like propelled them to really want to try and do everything they possibly could to be the best, and then being around Josh, he was, by this time, he's starting to kind of come out of it a little bit and get pushed out a little bit, and because he was getting up there in age, and he's always had that like mentor kind of mentality. I've known him for a long time because of like American Super Camp and everything, back in his Honda days, and so like he's always kind of had that like big brother attitude, I feel like, towards me, and so like that's always been really nice. And like he was the same way, like, but he went about it like a more fun way. Like he didn't kill himself all the time trying to be something he couldn't be. He like did the best to his ability of what he could, and what didn't burn him out and like didn't make him hate the sport. And like, we'd go ride moto all the time, and like seeing how he thought about everything was a big deal. Like he's a very like intellectual person and thinks about things through, where I didn't. I would just be like, oh, I'm gonna go ride 20-minute motos all day and blah blah. But like he would actually think about what he's gonna do during those sessions and everything else. And so like just being around that kind of mentality was a big deal for me, because now that I'm actually trying in the last few years, like I've been able to kind of put all that stuff I've seen and didn't really think about to work, and it's obviously been working a lot better for me. So yeah.
It's cool to see that stuff work out. I mean, I honestly feel very similar in a lot of ways about pretty much all this stuff, you know, because I was more or less the same growing up. I had a lot of good opportunities, didn't really, you know, didn't make the most of them as much as it could have, because it just didn't really, either thought it was just going to last forever, or didn't capitalize, or just had a little bit of enough of a talent to get by. But it wasn't until, you know, last 5 years of really like taking all that stuff exactly like you said and putting it together. So no, I think that stuff's really cool to hear, because I think people don't really, I think that's why people like our podcast, honestly, because they don't hear that shit. Like, I think we just go out we show up to the track, we ride, and we like, you know, we have this like sick, awesome life, you know, but there's like so much that goes into your perspective and approach. And, I mean, training obviously is a big part of it, but I feel like the mental side of training is just as important as training itself, you know, what that does for you. So
yeah, I also would kind of agree with that a little bit. Like, you know, I think growing up as kids as well, like, you'd only see so much. Like, the one thing is, like, what we see, like, growing up and hearing it now is totally different than what I thought I knew, right? And, you know, like, even now when you're talking about, you know, being on Ridiculous and stuff, and, like, I just remember seeing, like, JD always kind of posting for you, and always, like, you know, like, Big Brother, kind of like, you know, Hayden's still doing it. He's still kind of always trying to like get you, you know, find rides and do things of that nature. And it's interesting to hear like kind of the backstory of that. Into how.
It's funny, like, so like y'all mentioned my social media stuff earlier. Like before, like even at Ridiculous, like leading up to that, I posted a ton and like did stories and all that stuff, but it was more because like it was cool, and you know, I was like almost kind of addicted to it, and like the likes and everything. And then after everything was Ridiculous fell through, and then I kind of left. Like, you can go look, and there's like a 2-year gap of just nothing. And then even in 2022 I had one post and it was just a season recap. and then like last year I was like, okay, I gotta start doing a little bit more, and you know, I made a few more posts, but still not very much. And then like this year, summer's been on me really hard about like making it better and upping it, and it's gotten a lot better. But I freaking hate social media. I hate having a phone on me all the time. I try not to have it on me on purpose so that nobody can get a hold of me.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And like it's and like I just so if anybody ever calls me and I don't answer, it's because I just don't want to talk. And I mean, so it's like it's funny. We were actually like, I think at the World Superbike race, I like went back and looked, and I didn't even realize that there was a 2-year gap of just nothing. And I was like, wow. Oh.
Well, so what was the final straw? Like, what was the final straw for you to go, like, I mean, I think we have to bring up the Sean Dillon Kelly incident. Like, I think we have to. I don't know. Have you listened to any of our podcasts?
I've watched Richie's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a pretty good one, Richie.
Yeah, I like Richie's.
Yeah, Poppy's good.
It was good.
So, but like, what was the final straw of you? Like, I'm out. Like, deuces. Like, why? I mean, that year was getting built up pretty big. Like, just all the racing, hard racing.
Yeah.
You know, that incident, whatever. And when were you like, I'm fucking out?
I don't know. Like that year, I had a ton of fun that year. Like the first half of the year, me and Bobby went at it hard, like rubbing paint, and like me, I freaking go back and watch like Road Atlanta from that year, and like I was making passes on him from like 30 feet back, and then just dive bombing him at the very last second, and like he lost his front fender and everything, and like I don't know, I think because I did really well the year before against JD, I felt like that year I like had to win. And at that time, like I was getting a little bit of like monthly money from Ridiculous, but not much. And everything was performance based. And so like I felt like it was like win or nothing. And I had, a really good start to the year, and then had like a race or two in the middle where it kind of went sideways, and then had a problem at Laguna, crashed and lost a bunch of points, and then it got really tight. And and then we get to New Jersey, and it was really close in the championship between me and Bobby, and PJ was starting to come on, and Sean up to that point had been nowhere, and everybody was talking him up all the time, and it just kind of frustrated me a little bit. But and then like that weekend he was going good, and a couple times in practice throughout the year, because he was new and everything. He was new on 600s and all that, and I was coming off of a really good year, so I'd come out really hard on practices and everything, and I would always end up catching him at the wrong time, and he'd be like way off pace, way off line, and like I'd almost run him over, and then I'd throw my hands up at him and get mad, and then I'd go. And every I had a hard time with the M4 boys that year, because like Chris and John and them were all over my case anytime my hand came up, and it really was struggling for me, because me and Bobby was on the same team, and me and him were like rubbing paint every single race and like laughing about it afterwards. But if I even made a gesture towards Sean, I would have somebody from Moto America come up to me, and I'm like, I don't even remember what happened. Like I don't remember anything being like, I don't remember it. And they'd be like, well, you need to, be careful, watch yourself, and blah blah. And I felt like there was a lot of politics going on that year. And at race 1, New Jersey, I didn't have like the outright pace to lead or to win by myself. And so, but that year, those 2 years on the 600, I was down a little bit on the straight line speed just because of my size and everything. And so anytime somebody came by me on the straightaway, I was passing them back as soon as we went into the corner, no matter what. And me and Sean were getting into it a bunch, and he wasn't giving me any space. He was like leaning on me, and I was not liking it at all. And I'm like, dude, you're on the out, like I'm on the inside of you, I'm passing you, you better stop leaning on me. And so I started like kind of standing him up on the corner exits, and I got chewed out after the race. I ended up crashing out of the lead, and I got chewed out after the race, and they're blah blah. And the next race, at that time that year, we were running whatever your best lap was, that's how you qualified for the next race. And I was like 4th or 5th fastest in race 1, so I was starting on the second row. I wasn't getting good starts, so like I had to fight my way back from pretty deep. And the next to last lap, he was in 3rd. I caught up to him, and like I had a lot of momentum and everything. Like I was closing in rapidly on him, and I wasn't going to waste any time passing him. And we get into, I think it's turn 5, that left at New Jersey, and I went up the inside of him, and we come out, and he leaned on me, and my knee caught his handlebar, and he went down, and he was throwing a fit the next lap, and then I come in and get a water bottle thrown at me. And honestly, if it wasn't for Josh Hayes, I would have got off the bike and probably would have never been able to come back to Moto America. And and that weekend I just found out Ridiculous wasn't continuing. I forgot about that part. And we had been kind of talking about stepping up to thousands next year and all that, and so I was kind of riding on that. I hadn't talked to anybody else, and then that weekend had a rough weekend, lost a bunch of points, and then we get to Barber, Road Racing World put out an article pretty much burying me. And I got dock championship points, all this stuff. And then I get to Barber and have a meeting with Moto America. And, they're hyping me up. Oh, we love how you ride, and we love watching you ride and everything, and blah blah. But if you have to make really close passes, you're gonna have to settle. Like if you have to make a pass deep into the corner to make it happen, then you're gonna have to just settle for that position. And I'm like, you can watch every single pass I've made this year has had to be late into the corner. I've had it's been at the apex. The only person that I've ever had any complaints from is this one freaking 16-year-old kid and his entire freaking mafia of people behind him that keep griping at me that are, they're a big part of the series. And I'm like, I understand that I'm a common denominator in this, but there's also that aspect. And so anyways, they pretty much told me, like, if I make any passes like that, I was going to be done. And I'd already come into that weekend not even wanting to be there. I didn't want to race after New Jersey because of how I was getting chewed up on social media and everything, and then I left that meeting crying, like, because I felt like I couldn't even race like how I wanted to race. And so I think I went out and I just didn't even try that weekend. I got like a 7th and an 8th or something and was nowhere near. And it's all, controversial, but, Bobby crashed in race 2 or whatever, and red flag came out, and he got to start in the front row and ended up winning the championship, all that. And I was like, after that, I went to the banquet, talked and freaking cried on the stage there, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm over it. I went and talked to a family friend of Summers and got a job doing carpentry work for a couple months, and sold all my bikes, everything, and was like, I'm done. I'm gonna get a job and just stay home and do all this stuff. And yeah, and so that was, I kind of was over it. Like, I had a lot of problems with M4, and then with, even Moto America was backing them up every single time, and I wasn't happy about it, and I didn't want to be a part of it. And because I felt like I was doing some really good stuff on track, and me and Bobby and PJ had really good races all year, and yeah, and so I haven't talked to Sean since Jersey, and like I have nothing to say to him. I don't really care at this point. I'd never rooted for him once in Moto2 while he was over there, because I really did not give a shit about that kid. So yeah, and my dad doesn't come to the racetrack anymore. He, like, after all that, he doesn't care to be here.
That was why I was wondering that too. Why your dad hasn't come around a long time?
I've tried to get him to come back. I've asked him, and he doesn't care to be here. And especially now that Sean's back in the paddock, if my dad sees his dad, it's game on. And
I'll be real scared of that.
Yeah, and so like I don't know, it's funny, and it's been 5 years now since all that happened, and it's like I should be over it, but I'm not, because that was a big time in my life where I had never thought I was ever not going to want to race motorcycles, and I really did not care about motorcycles at that point. And yeah, and I mean, but everything's worked out how it should. And
yeah. So what did you learn in those 2 years? Obviously, you learned carpentry, but what did you learn as a person?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. went and did, I learned that motorcycles, I learned that this isn't everything. And, there's a lot more out there in the world than motorcycles. And, if something happens here, I know I can go find a job doing something. There's no shortage of jobs out there for you if you're okay, getting your hands dirty and, not necessarily doing what you love, but you can get by and get through life. And, I got married, had a kid, and then really that was, while she was pregnant, had a fill-in opportunity at Pittsburgh with Disrupt, and had done a couple endurance races and was enjoying riding, and came to Pittsburgh, not in shape, nothing, and had
beat us up.
had a good weekend, and and then we had Stone, and I was like, all right, I've got this opportunity to get back into racing with Disrupt, and I don't want Stone to grow up seeing like pictures of me racing motorcycles and like hearing stories of me racing motorcycles and never being there, and then ask me one day why I didn't whenever he was born. I didn't want him to, for some reason, feel like it was his fault or something like that. And so that was, he was a big part of why I decided to get back into it and try to have another go at this.
Did you do anything else otherwise, like self-help during those 2 years? Like, did you talk to anyone? Just summer, obviously.
Yeah,
kind of thing?
I'm not a big I'm not a big talker, and like even like physical health stuff. I don't take medicine. I don't go to the doctor. I don't do anything. I don't know. I don't trust people with with my life, and so like even in like my mental state, it's always been I've got to figure this out, and really just getting away from it, and then just doing stuff that I thought was fun helped a bunch, and really once I did the carpentry stuff, and then I worked at a concrete plant for 2 years. For the rest of the 2 years, I realized there was a lot more out there, and that if racing didn't work out, it didn't work out. If it just didn't matter to me. It wasn't that big a deal anymore, and I didn't like. Now I don't care. I don't care what people think of me anymore. At that time, whenever all that happened, and the article got put out, and I felt like I really like got put to shame. Like, I cared what people thought at that point, and now I don't care. Like, me and Summer argue all the time because she's like, she cares what people think of her and like how she looks and everything, and I'm like, who cares what they think? Yeah, I'm like,
chick. That's part of it.
If somebody wants to comment on my appearance or my talking or my attitude, I'm like, I don't care, as long as if you're fine with me. I don't care about anybody else outside this house. And I think that's, I don't know, like that's where I'm at. I care a lot about what I'm doing and like making sure I like have the right relationships. I don't want to make anybody mad at me at the track. I never will intentionally take somebody out. Like we've all been doing it long enough, and like I had a sibling die, like especially flat tracking. Like, there's so many friends that I've had pass from crashes, and I'm never going to intentionally freaking crash somebody, because even if it's a small crash, it's always a possibility. And so like now I like, as long as I'm having fun, my family's happy and everything, I'm good. I'll be here as long as I can be here, but if not, it's not the end of the world for me anymore.
Do you think that perspective is what makes it more fun now, a little bit less stressful, just like knowing that absolute worst case, if this all just goes away, you can go back to Kentucky and make some money doing something else?
Yeah, and like that's, now it's not, I don't have to win. Like like that was the big thing in 22 was because I knew you were going to be really tough. I knew Travis was going to be really tough. I was like, I don't have to win every race if I just stay up and finish. Like that was my main goal, was just finishing races and seeing what happened, because I didn't have your pace all the time, and that's like now I don't feel like I have to win all the time.
Do or die all the time.
Yeah, and especially now with kids, like I don't want to put myself on the edge every single time I'm on track, and so I think it's helped a bunch. Like this year I've had a couple too many crashes, and so I'm trying to get back to that mentality where if I don't have it, I don't have it, and I'll take what I can get.
You talk about summer being like a real big part of you kind of getting revitalized and whatnot. Is it just because like stability? I know, like I've spoke with her a bit all last year, and she's like really positive person. She's like, seems like she's got a lot of life, and you know, like does that help like ooze into you a little bit where you're, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's like she keeps me grounded, and like on like early in the year, especially on the Honda this year in stock, like I was a step above kind of everybody else, and at that point I was like looking at Superbike times all the time, and she's now, you know, I had a couple crashes, and now she's every time she's like, hey, you don't have to be a rock star, like just
go get me that handbag money.
And like she's like, you've got a couple kids to come back to, just do what you can do and everything's fine. We're happy, we're good, we're gonna be here. And so it's just stability, and she's a very positive person, and where I'm like the opposite. I'm, for the most part, like she's negative about some things, but like I, you know, she's been very good, and she allows me to be somebody I don't have to try to be. I don't have to like be anything I'm not for her. So that's all I care about. Yeah, it just makes life really easy.
So you said about your dad not coming to the races. What is your dad up to these days? Like, what is your family's background other than racing? Because that's obviously what everyone knows Hayden does, and so on and so forth.
He works. So he's worked for the water department in Owensboro for I don't know, a long time now, and so like he does that whenever he's at home, and he, whenever we're all at the racetrack, he's the one watching all the dogs. He's got
all JD's dogs too.
Well, only one is like technically JD's, but JD, like during the day, that they're JD's dogs, and then whenever JD's not there, you know, then they're my dad's dog. Like they are all, it's all split custody kind of stuff, and like it's funny. It's like those dogs are nobody's dogs. They're just like a community pack, and so
do they get split up at night?
Yeah. Like my parents' neighbor has a golden retriever named Penny, and she comes down, and during the day she's hanging out in their house, and even like at night, that guy will text my parents and be like, hey, will you let Penny out? And they'll let her outside, and then she'll go back home. And then like my brother has 2 Goldens, and during the day JD will watch them, and so sometimes if they're out of town, like they'll be over at the house, and that's where you get all of a sudden JD's got like 6 or 7 dogs.
That's what everyone thinks they're all his.
Yeah. And so it's like, so there's little packs, and then they all come together, and that's when you get all the dogs out there. But so he stays at home, watches the dogs. He follows all of this close, and like we don't talk all the time. We just, none of us are talkers, and but I know like every session he's sitting there watching timing, watching live feed if he can, and so like I know he's always sitting there watching, and he's got his opinions and everything, and like after the races, Summer will be group chatting with my mom and dad and everybody, and you know, I'll read, you know, what they're saying about my starts or something, and so like
it's dad stuff, man.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
he's there. He's sitting there watching, and he's taking care of everything back home. And
I always thought your dad was a farmer. I don't know why.
He's a jack of all trades.
I think it's because every time we see him, he's in a tractor.
Yeah,
like doing the track or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's transitioned more that way now. Like we're working on getting some cows soon, and like all that stuff. But he's wanting goats and everything.
Is Frankie Lee, is he farming? Is that what he does?
No, he works for the electrical side for the city. So he's
he was a farmer too.
No, he's a lineman.
Man.
He's a lineman. So it's funny. So they both work for the city, and so like they've both got really good jobs, pensions, all that stuff, and so. I'm the one that doesn't really have much going on in the bank account.
Did you like doing any carpentry or any concrete work?
The carpentry, I love that stuff. It's fun. I like whenever I was 10, I hit a chain link fence half mile, and my bone and stuff came all out my arm and all that. And so like pulling and pushing on stuff whenever I was like screwing and doing all that, and like that was why I kind of had to stop, because I've got arthritis and everything in it, and especially in the wintertime, which was when I was doing it all, it acts up and everything, and like I would be pulling on a board and screwing it in, and I would release it, and my arm would just be locked up for a little bit, and it would just hurt, and so that was why I stopped doing that. But I enjoy building stuff a lot. It's fun. I just like the creativity of what you can do with stuff. And then the concrete side, like I sat in an office when I was doing that. I actually like took the orders, and
I don't see you sitting in an office.
I tried not to if I could. And like it was cool. I got to like run a bunch of, like I got to run the big like big front end loaders and stuff, like just moving rock and sand and stuff. Yeah, it was like kind of thing. I love doing that. That was fun.
I can see that.
And then like running the forklift and all that. And then like I got to learn, because me and there was one other guy that did my job, and we're both the same age, so we're always cutting up and doing stuff. He liked being in the office a little bit more, and I enjoyed running out and doing stuff, which he had been there for a while, so he had to teach me everything. And like we had to do a lot of work on the plant, keeping it running, and we were always in, on certain jobs we would come in at midnight and be there till like 4 p.m. working, and like taking orders. That was the only thing I didn't like. Always phone calls, like people ordering concrete, and I'm like, yeah. And so, and those, those the contractors they get pissy whenever you don't have stuff there exactly when they want it, and everything. And that was the hard part of that job, was just.
Man, for somebody that doesn't like a phone, man, that's got to be pretty good. Yeah. I couldn't imagine calling and getting Hayden on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? Don't got it.
Oh, sorry. Can't do it today. Oh, no, we're booked up, man.
That's funny.
Yeah.
We do a little segment here. It's called the Law Tigers Tech Tip. And basically just give us something that you would suggest to anybody that's looking to get onto the track, or maybe has been riding on the track, but, just good advice.
Or even through, like, your times when you were away and coming back, like... some good advice for people, either new riders or riders that are in it now, maybe struggling, or riders at the top of the wave and can come crashing down.
I would just say everything takes time. Like, I mean, I've been at this for 23 years now, and we're all still learning and figuring things out, and I'm just now feeling like I'm getting to where I should have been a long time ago. It takes time. Don't get discouraged. Stay at it. Don't rush through things. Like, that's how all the bad crashes happen, whenever you're just trying to push too hard. There's a lot more going outside of the track, and you got a lot more to do whenever you get back home, especially if you're just doing track days and everything. Like, you got a job and everything to get back to. Don't care about if you're the fastest dude or not. You're gonna get there, and just roll with it.
Check your ego.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That was really good.
If you do end up crashing on the street and you do need some legal advice, call one here at Law Tigers. Law Tigers are America's motorcycle lawyers. Again, all advice is free. So if you ever need any help, give them a call, get some help, and get back out there on two wheels. Thanks Law Tigers again for supporting us. So I guess get into the next kind of chapter for you. Obviously, want to try to wrap up the Superstock Championship this year. You were saying Superbike potentially next year. Is that kind of how much involvement does Honda actually have in your program? That's kind of been a question of mine.
We've got some like parts support, like so we've got a parts budget, but other than that, like the dealership that we're working with, Southern Power Sports in Chattanooga, they've been without them I wouldn't be racing this year. If I was racing, I'd be racing stock 1000. I definitely wouldn't be on the Superbike grid. They've been huge, and so Honda themselves isn't really in the pit with us. It's more Southern Power Sports, and we've had meetings with Honda about like just trying to figure out what the next couple years looks like. And they're obviously, for them right now, is getting the stock 1000 championship and winning races, trying to spin up their budget a little bit. And me and Ashton and Gabriel and Richard and all of us have been doing a pretty good job of that so far. So we just got to keep that up. And they're acting like the contingency is going to stay the same for next year. And if everything goes good this year, if we can wrap up the championship and keep running pretty good in Superbike, maybe there's a possibility that we can get some actual support from them next year. Work on, possibly having like a tech at the racetrack with us for Superbike, and I don't know. We'll see. I haven't been in all those meetings. Normally,
do you run the team? Is the team yours or is it Mark's?
It's mine and Mark's and Jerry Nickel, who used to own 4SR USA, and he's oil guy from Texas. He's been a big part of. He's actually been a big part of me coming back into racing and everything. Been a big help and huge part of my family really in the last few years. And so it's between the three of us. We've been kind of running everything. Jerry does a lot more of the sit down meetings with the Honda guys and with some of the sponsors and everything, and handles a lot of the bigger picture stuff. And then me and Mark kind of just run all the team level things, crew and parts.
So you're involved in the day-to-day on that stuff. Yeah. How's that been, having to deal with that backside of stuff? Because I know how that goes.
Yeah, it's been good. Like I did it whenever I did the man van plan stuff with Cycle World.
Yeah, we meant to ask about
but
that.
But it's a lot different now. This is actually at that point that was kind of more, I don't know, not this is a lot bigger than what that is. And this has potential to keep growing and getting bigger, especially if Honda's really serious about getting back in and on it. And it's been fun. It's stressful, like super stressful. I don't remember it being this stressful for the Cycle World stuff. And then just doing all the budgeting stuff and making sure we have all the parts and stickers and making sure all the tire bills are paid, suspension bills are paid, parts are getting paid for. Like just it's a lot. And on top of, luckily Summer takes care of pretty much everything else at home, so like that takes a big load off. But just getting everything to and from the track is kind of stressful. Okay, it's like herding cats, and so it's just a lot going on.
Do you ever look at those budget numbers and go, man, I could put this money into something else?
Oh yeah,
and do a lot with it.
It's crazy. Like honestly, what we've done with the budget that we've had this year is really good. It's been really tight. Like that was actually part of the reason that I went and did Loudon, was just to try and make a little bit extra money to put back into this program to get us, because I was a little nervous about the West Coast, and so I was like, I talked Mark into going up to Loudon like Tuesday before, and I was like, hey, let's go do this so that, you know, we can for sure get through the West Coast trip, and and then it turned out really good.
Do you have to put all your own money into it?
I have been. Me and Mark both have been, and Jerry obviously puts a bunch into it, and it's
because that's good. Then the Honda the contingency, and I mean that's huge for them to say, or if they do keep it the same. I mean, a lot of these companies come in, you do a big investment, you finally, you know, make a little bit of money, pay everything off, and the next year they go, oh, sorry, it's $3,000 to win.
Yeah. So the contingency's been a big
huge
deal. Like it's been supplementing a lot. And so that's been really good. You know, obviously the couple crashes I've had has put a big dent on that, but it's and that's, you know, we don't want to do that. We don't want to have to put our own money into it, but you know, that's motorcycle racing, and I knew that coming in that at some point we were going to have to pay for a lot, and like especially at the beginning, all the startup costs of just getting everything going, the new bikes, all the parts, the race trailer, getting the vehicle and everything. Like it's a lot of money to get going, and unfortunately we kind of forgot about that whenever we did the budget. So it's the first couple months were very, very tight, and you know the bank account had a few too many negatives on it, but it's you know, everything's starting to even out now and get back to how it should. But yeah,
what would you say, this is interesting for people to hear, but you don't have to say exactly what you guys are spending, but what would you say it takes to go race like a Honda, your setup, because your setup's, you know, more or less what a guy who wants to show up as a one rider deal and go race super stock, what do you think that would cost someone?
If you're just doing like just stock, I'd say 200 at least. You know, if you're gonna get some buddies just to come help, that's cheaper, and you know, obviously like we got our bikes given to us, so that was a big chunk, because those you know, the bikes these days aren't cheap.
Yeah, it's another 150 grand by the time.
And so I'd say like for one bike, you know, obviously you don't need that big a trailer, you don't need that canopy set up and all that. Like you can do it for pretty cheap, and for what we've done, like we haven't spent, you know, we're probably at $350 maybe for the year, you know, with the trailer and the canopy and all the parts and all that, and so like it adds up quick, and you know, but we have four bikes now, 4 chassis, and we got a bunch of stuff over there, way too much stuff, and
that's what happens though, you get down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and so it's like you can do it a lot cheaper, but right now to do it right, like
that's the thing, is people don't understand that, like, you know, there's a difference between going club racing and going Moto America racing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that are club racing at Moto America.
Yeah,
that's not really how it should be.
Yeah,
you know,
and I mean tire bills are $6,000 a weekend, $7,000 a weekend, and you know, fuel bills, getting to the track, to and from the track, hotel costs, food costs, like just the little stuff adds up so fast
without even turning a wheel.
Yeah, and so it's it sucks.
And what made you want to do, like, go all in again? Like, I mean, we heard you talking through your story that you've made a little bit of money in your career. You know, you don't have to say how much, but like, did you ever? It sounds like this is all about the love again. But like, why? Last year you had a pretty good year. You won the championship with baggers. You probably made a little bit of money on both sides, right? Like, what makes you go, you know what, I'm gonna invest again? Like, why now?
I don't know.
Okay.
Now I'm getting back to the stupidity a little bit. But no, I mean, like last year was good. I was, you know, Disrupt was paying me pretty good to race for them, and so I was getting that money, and then, you know, racing for Vance Tynes on the bagger, the contingency's really good there. and so that was all really good. But I spent a bunch of money last year too. Just I had to get a new camper and bought a new truck, and like now having kids and everything, I have to have all these things to get myself to the track so that they can be comfortable. So I'm spending a little bit more money now, so I kind of have to have a little bit of that. But I don't know. And then staying with Vance Hines this year for baggers, I figured it would go good, so I kind of counted on some of that contingency money being there again. I was able to negotiate a little bit of a salary from Terry, which you know how that is.
Surprise.
I think it only because you left.
Dude, surprise, dude.
Nothing to do with winning a championship or nothing.
Yeah, but
TV, dude. Sorry, TV, but man, dude, an hour and 40 on the phone calls.
Oh yeah,
they're tough. But I love you, TV.
I mean, so I've got that, and then with separating from Disrupt, I lost that income.
Yeah.
But I wasn't getting I didn't get any contingency from Suzuki the last couple of years because they just don't have any. And really for stock, I wasn't getting any contingency other than from Arai a little bit. And then obviously I'm not getting any contingency in Superbike. So like really on the 1,000 side, I wasn't getting anything. And then being able to get a little bit from Terry, and then plus having the contingency for baggers, and then Honda stepping in as big as they have for their contingency, it kind of like, okay, I didn't know how the bike was going to be. I didn't know if it was really even going to be very good. I figured it would at least be what the Suzuki was, with just having the top speed difference. I was like, even if it just handles a little bit worse than the Suzuki, I think I can do pretty good on the thing. And obviously it's been really good. And so I've gotten more out of it this year than what I originally thought I was going to, but the cost of everything has been more than what I thought. So I've had to give back a lot more to the team than.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough, like when you go to make that, hey, I want to race Superbike as well, and even though there's still big contingency there too, like even if you finish mid-pack.
Yeah.
But you've got to spend, whatever that tire bill, fuel bill, like you got another bike, like all that goes into that where it's like, what you've got to be doing it for, you bring Honda in more, and
and that's the thing is like talking about next year is in order to do anything more than what we're doing now, we're gonna have to get support from them, or at least get some more team sponsors with us. Which I think after this year I should be able to bring some more people on to get a little bit more support. But to really to do anything properly in Superbike, you have to have at least a little bit of manufacturer support, and that's the big thing. Is electronics is a big deal, and it's not like you can just kind of get a setup system, put it in, and then you're good. And like you have to do so much fine tuning on it that you have to have somebody that knows how to do it, and unfortunately those guys are expensive. And so, you have to you start adding people to the crew once you have Superbike. And like right now I have 3 guys working on 2 bikes, but they're both stock 1000s. We don't have to do much electronic stuff. We're really just swapping wheels and changing suspension. It's not that big a deal, but once you start throwing all the Superbike stuff in, it becomes doubles, triples, and that's the tough part.
Do you think that after riding the World Superbike and being able to get, if you were to take that bike, bring it here, I mean, obviously there's a couple little things, but do you think it could be competitive here?
I think so.
Or do you think it would be off?
No, I think, honestly,
like plug and play, hey, Midori, we just need to ship one of those.
Yeah, that's we're hoping to, I'm hoping that we can try and talk a little bit with them and be able to get some hard parts from them.
A little bit of a bridge.
Because we would probably stick with the stock frame and just throw swing arm and triple clamps on it and go. And, maybe really the good thing about this bike is that because of the way it makes power, it's really mellow. It's similar to what the Yamaha is, kind of. But the Yamaha's got a little bit more torque to it, but so you really don't have to have a ton of electronics to control it, it is able to. The HRC stuff is really good. It does a really good job. Where the Suzuki, I struggled with the stock stuff. It was hard, and the thing hits hard off the bottom, and so like I struggled putting that thing coming off the corner. I struggled with keeping the front wheel on the ground and keeping the thing from not spinning up too much, and where the Honda's really good about that. So I think, just having some hard parts for it would be a big help. I think, it's kind of like, I think it would be a really good bike, because obviously in stock form it's pretty close. It's not, another second would be at most of the tracks. Another second would be right there with the front guys, and so it's not far off. I think, I don't know. That's the hard part is, people have asked me about it, and I'm like, it's hard to say from year to year. And this weekend we actually have a 24 that we're racing, and it's got split throttle bodies and a different head and everything. Like, it's got a lot more mid-range, where this 23 is really soft and doesn't come off the corners all that hard. So I'm excited to try the 24 this weekend and see what it's like versus the Superbikes, because I know whenever I rode here a few months ago, coming off of like the keyhole, the thing was just ball and just took forever to get going. And testing the 24 last weekend, it comes off the corners a lot harder, and so I'm excited to try the thing. It's as far as I know, I think it's the only 24 in the country. So
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, which that was another cost. We went and bought it from HRC.
Oh wow! Because you run HRC stickers, right?
Yeah.
But you're not.
Happy for contingency. Though,
yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, which it was cheap for, like, it was like almost 10,000 less than what a MSRP one is on the showroom floor here, and it comes with the HRC stuff and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure
I probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you're winning. You're winning. People glaze over it.
Yeah.
You're winning, so they gotta help you. So,
but yeah, so it's I don't know. I think it would be a really good bike, and that's after going over there, after riding the 23 here and doing pretty good. I thought, I don't know if maybe they're just going down the wrong path over there with development or something, but like here, I feel like the bike is really good.
Yeah, BSB it is as well.
Yeah.
So it is interesting when you watch that, but maybe it's just to do with the domestic kind of rules, or more simple. Obviously, as things start to get more pointy at the top, it's like the BMW is good in super stock trim everywhere, but a little bit more tough to ride in
but there's only one guy that's good on it in World Superbike.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I'm saying. But super stock across the world, it's good.
Yeah.
So once it gets there.
Yeah.
What about, obviously having kids now? Do you see them getting into racing? Is that what's Stone like picking up a bike already? Going?
No, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He just wants to dunk his head in water. No,
most days.
Yeah, he loves the pool, and so maybe he's got to swim in
Michael Phelps.
Yeah, maybe he's got Olympics one day in his future, but I don't know. He's got a Strider. I've got a Stasic for him, and all. He doesn't even touch them. Doesn't look at them. Like, doesn't care.
Do you care?
I don't care. I'm kind of, I'm the same way my parents were. It's whatever he wants to do. Obviously I would love for him to race, but I know how I would feel if it was, if say my dad was a really good racer, how I was just being related to Nicky and them. who knows how it would be having a kid in the sport. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he cares or not.
You think it's tough looking at it? Like, I feel like when we were kids, that was like pre-2008, so our parents are like looking at it potentially like, okay, there's like, you can make a living, know, or now it's like we know the reality of it because we're living in it. So it's kind of hard to like, almost like setting your kid up for failure.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about it. You won 2 championships, now you're running your own team. And you got a little bit of money from, the bagger stuff, but it's like, you can make a living, but you're not getting
you're
rid.
Working hard.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like, I would love for them to get into motorcycling, but also I would love not to have to pay for it for a while. So
I think I just feel like it's like if my kids would ever have the same like desire that you have to go racing, you know, do what you're doing, not really making a ton of money and just, you know, putting yourself on the line, like to have that, but for anything else in life, you'd be pretty successful.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. I don't know. I don't care if they want to pursue motorcycling, we'll do it. I'll figure out how to make it work. Luckily, we all know some people, some sponsors, and everything that I would assume that you could kind of pull in to help. And I don't know. It'll be interesting. I got a few years before I really have to worry about that. Right now, he's a little speech delayed, so we're just trying to get him talking, and he says certain little words, but he doesn't put everything together. So right now we're just focused on trying to get him to tell us what he wants. And I mean, he loves swimming and everything, and like all he wants to do is go out in the pool. He likes going for a ride on the tractor or the 4-wheeler, all that stuff, and on like my Grom, he loves going for a ride, but he doesn't care. Like he's more interested in the horn button than anything.
Here's a question that's kind of a little bit interesting, but do you think you're more equipped, like going through everything you've done with racing, like for kids, or is it completely different? Like, like all the trials, tribulations you've been through. Like, I mean, listen, I don't have kids, and I don't know what that entails, but do you feel more equipped to be a dad and to deal with like those things, or is it so far out of the realm that it's just like it's a totally different thing? I
don't know, honestly. It's like the sleepless nights, like kind of like last night, just driving through the night and getting to where we're going, like that maybe. But it's so different because we're so used to only having to take care of ourselves and focus on ourselves, and all of a sudden you throw an extra mouth in there and it's all of a sudden game on. And you can't understand what they're wanting. You don't know. You don't know. And it's, I don't know, everybody's built a little different. Like, I'm good with certain aspects of it. Summer's good with certain aspects of it, but the whole spectrum is freaking hard. And like we've discussed possibly having a third at some point, but we're both like, it'll be a while. The other ones might have to already be in school and help us take care of it.
That's funny. Do you feel like you wish at all ever, obviously you're a big boy, your family is all big boys, you've probably been pretty good at football. If you stuck with that, do you wish you took that same thing and put it into something else opposed to racing? Or are you pretty, I mean, it's hard to say where you're not happy where you're at, but
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I always felt like, I might be okay at baseball or something. But I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I never thought of anything other than motorcycles. So it's, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it is. So you've listened, how far have you listened to the Richie Escalante all the way through?
I don't even know. It was a little while ago. I think it was while I was driving, and then like I'd stop and sleep. And
so do you know the last question?
I didn't make it to the end.
Everybody says that they listen. They don't listen. It's all right. All right, you good?
Yeah. So you got locked up, maybe for some retaliation for getting hit in the head with a water bottle, something like that. You killed somebody. You're in jail, on death row. What's so funny? They're getting ready to strap you to the machine, but you got one last meal. What's your day look like? What are you eating, drinking, the whole 9 yards?
The death row meal.
The death row meal.
I'm gonna
Moonlight.
I'm gonna get a glass of Basil Hayden's bourbon. I'm gonna, I don't know. I'm torn between like a nice like sirloin or a nice slab of salmon or something. I don't know about sides. Maybe some carrots and brown sugar. I don't know.
All right.
And
that's different.
Some banana bread. some good homemade banana bread.
All right.
And
that's a good meal.
Good. Yeah.
That's a pretty good Southern meal right there. I go for that myself.
I could go
That's
for that.
about like every day.
I'm starving right now.
I know. Same.
That's every day's meal.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate you coming on. Obviously, like I said, I think a lot of people don't really get the chance to know you very well because you are a little more private and whatnot. And so hopefully people get to know you a little bit better out of this one. So we appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me. I know I've been a pain in the butt to get a hold.
This guy was freaking out. Is he coming? So
like,
he was about
do
to
we
change his flight if you weren't coming. I'm like, I think he's coming.
I'm like, do we need a backup plan? I'm like, because I text Hayden and he'll text me one time out of like 4, and I'm like, man, maybe he doesn't like me anymore. Like, I thought we connected last year, but seriously, it's been awesome. I know last year we were able to, have an amazing year together, and it's great to see the things you're doing now, and father and run your own team and continue to be successful. And I think it's awesome that you're able to open up and allow people into maybe a different perspective, even that I was able to hear. And that's what we're here. That's what we're here to do for Pipe Dreams. So, thank you so much, Hayden Gillum.
Thanks for having me
Come
on.
back again soon.
It was fun.
And forget everybody go to defileodds.co. We got this new little. Look at that little Gasolina. And we got all the new merch out there, and
save me from bankruptcy, please.
We appreciate the support that helps keep the Pipe Dreams podcast alive.
Yes, thanks to all our partners. Hopefully we'll have some new announcements coming up on the next one. We're working on some stuff for next year already, so appreciate it. Thanks everyone.
Nice.
Cheers.